Shall we talk about the Rotherham game?
If we must. Stick around. I think this is our Seinfeld episode. I'm trying to think of a nice diplomatic way of saying it, but it was boring.
If you were waiting for us to go through the highlights of that game, we just have. There weren't any.
A football match did not break out.
When we've come up against low blocks before, we've still found a way to lose.
Nothing happened.
Have we mentioned that?
Emphasise this to you, nothing happened.
I genuinely have respect for Rotherham for how they engaged in absolutely zero. I've not seen it before in my life.
But that really was the toughest game of the season. It was tough to watch.
I really don't think it was doom and gloom or anything like that. Lots of you guys who watch or listen to us came up to Jimbo and myself and said how much you were enjoying the podcast. Hopefully that's still the case after this episode, but we can't guarantee it. It was a stalemate for the town on Saturday afternoon as we were held 0-0 at Kenilworth Road by Rotherham United. Alongside me to look back on an afternoon we definitely won't remember for a long time is the Lutonian journalist James Cunliffe. Jimbo, at one stage I thought Paint Cam was getting a resurrection.
Much ado about nothing. How are we going to feel this? I don't know. Thank you for sticking by us so far.
Well, I think you should join us after the intro to find out exactly how we do that. Hello everyone, welcome along to another episode of the Luton Town Supporters Trust podcast, the award-winning, longest-running Luton Town podcast. This season, the show is in association with Solid, providing opportunities, provisions and assistance so our academy can fulfil their potential. As I mentioned prior to the intro, we are looking back on Luton Town 0, Rotherham United 0. The game itself probably not going to take a great deal of time to look back on at all, is it? And alongside me, I've got the Lutonian journalist, James Cunliffe. So what we'll do towards the end of the podcast, we'll sort of reflect on where we are. 15 games into the season, a third of the way into the season, however you want to describe it, and see if we're happy or we're not happy. I've already given my thoughts on the game, Jimbo. I don't think it's going to take long for you to give your thoughts on it, but what were they anyway?
I thought it was a match so uneventful. I'm not actually sure it even happened. I mean, this is our Seinfeld episode. Were you big on Seinfeld back in the day?
Back in the day, but it was back in too long a day for me to remember it.
Seinfeld was a 1990s sitcom dubbed A Show About Nothing. And I think that's what we're going to give you, because there was not much to talk about that game yesterday. I was very excited about going, and then a football match did not break out.
No, 22 players took to a pitch. I wouldn't even say they cancelled each other out, Jimbo. I mean, one team wanted to play, the other team didn't, and the team that didn't got exactly what they came for. And there it is, really. You're right, though. I think we're all looking forward to going to the game. I think that you and I got a positive vibe before the game. Lots of you guys who watch or listen to us came up to Jimbo and myself and said how much you were enjoying the podcast. Hopefully that's still the case after this episode, but we can't guarantee it. But yeah, once that first whistle went, it was weird, really, wasn't it? We should say just one change for the town, obviously an enforced change with Jerry Yates coming in for George Saville, which meant that Lamine Fanny played deeper, and Yates and Wells they played the first half as a front two, didn't they? Second half, Wells dropped a little bit deeper in behind Yates. There's nothing wrong with the team setup or anything like that, and a few people have said about us constantly talking about formations, and you're right, we probably shouldn't, because it's fluid. Even when it's a 3, it still becomes a 4, and when it's a 4, it still becomes 3, and that's absolutely fair enough. But yeah, it just didn't ignite, did it?
No, I'm trying to think of a nice diplomatic way of saying it, but it was boring. It was really boring. I suppose one of the things you could say is, in 18 months, 2 years, maybe we could have had a boring game and we would have lost. There was never really any danger of that. They had one shot early on, which was a header that Keeley dealt with very, very comfortably. And I don't think that was ever going to happen. And then the second half, did they ever even get in half? Not sure about that. Just total, fair play to them. They came for a draw because they're decimated apparently by injuries, didn't have X number of defenders, didn't have strikers. The strikers all went off in the second half. So from their point of view, they're probably quite happy with that. From our point of view, we've kind of seen this a lot, this low block stuff and Luton not being able to break them down. That's a frustrating element. That will have to change. But as we said, with the Mansfield game, maybe it's kind of a similar situation. Well, Jack's seen that now. He's been saying this a lot actually in press conferences. You have to have the experience of X, Y, and Z to know what to do about it. Well, he's got that. He's seen that the players have had that under him. We'd all like it to be Stockport every week, wouldn't we? But 5 games unbeaten. That's pretty good. We haven't gone 4 games. We hadn't won 4 games in a row, albeit in different competitions. But we hadn't done that for 5 years. So we were right to be optimistic. We're still unbeaten, I suppose. So you're going to come up against this. We've just got to figure out a way how to break those teams down.
Yeah, if you're waiting for us to go through the highlights of that game, we just have. There weren't any. There were none at all. There was literally nothing that we can pick out as a highlight. As Jimbo mentioned, Hugo had a header 5 or 10 minutes into the game, which was only difficult because of the fact that the pitch was absolutely saturated from the rain the day before. Otherwise, that would have been a simple save for a goalkeeper who's come back to top form. Not that he was ever really away from it. In terms of our chances, Kadir had a shot straight at keeper in the second half, and there were 1 or 2 shots that flashed wide of the post, and then Mengi shanked an effort right at the end, but that was pretty much it. But you're right, Jimbo, and I think we should focus on this because this isn't the last rodeo of having to break down a low block. It's the first under Jack, but we've seen it an awful lot. The first important difference to make is, and you've already made it right at the start of the podcast, when we've come up against low blocks before, we've still found a way to lose. We've not broken them down, but we found a way to lose because we keep getting caught on transition. I mean, how many goals did we concede from leaving the Premier League to Matt getting sacked on a counter-attack? It was every other week. Every time someone went forward with 3 or 4 players, someone was left wide open at the back stick and ball went in. Where it's different under Jack, and yes, there's a lot to work on and we'll cover that in a second, but where it's different is those transition moments, those counter-attack moments, they're not happening because he's reinforced the centre of the part of the pitch where teams come out of their defensive zone. We've got reinforcements there. We've either got Cal Naismith moving into midfield to make up another midfielder to stop that happening. We've got Izzy Jones doing the same thing, or we've just got 3 centre-backs, and we're so high up now that we're squeezing the play in. The problem was their defensive line was very high up yesterday as well in terms of where their block started, that the game was being played within a 30-yard part of the pitch with 22 men, and there was just no space for nobody.
Yeah, and that was the frustrating part of it. I understand why people are getting frustrated by it being played round the back all the time. The purpose of that, isn't it, to invite the press from Rotherham to come out, and then you maybe play a bounce pass and it comes back, and then you can go in between that line. And they just had no ambition whatsoever to do that. They did not care. They just sat there and go, well, you have the ball. And then it became so frustrating because the pace of it was slow. But that was by design by Rotherham. People getting frustrated with defenders doing that. They were instructed to play that way. I guess then maybe you've got to try and find a different way. And, Jack did speak about this afterwards. Sometimes you've got to then maybe go over the top of them if they're not going to do that. But then it's difficult, like you say, because in a 30-yard space of the pitch, there was just absolutely no room. And it was just so frustrating. It was. I can't remember a match for quite some time where just nothing happened. Nothing happened.
I mean, we'd still be there now, and it was 0-0, wasn't it? The ball over the top is a good play, but even that was not really on yesterday because as soon as the ball hit the pitch from the air, it just skidded and flew. I know we've got some speedsters, but they're not that quick. I mean, Rotherham played a couple of them in the first half that missed their player by 10 yards and flew out for a goal kick in no time. And that option really wasn't available. So the players chose to try and go around their shape, didn't they? I mean, you're right about Rotherham. Watching it from the Kenilworth end, it was like watching a turtle trying to sort of shuffle out of his house, you know? They were moving in very, very small movements, weren't they? Credit to them. I mean, that is a serious rearguard effort for nobody in 90 minutes to lose their concentration and just get lured into coming out of position, because that's all we needed. One man comes out of position, someone flies into that gap, and we're in. But they just did not do it. And yeah, we can pass the ball a lot quicker, and that'll be the thing that Jack takes away from yesterday, I'm sure. You know, no one really has a problem with Mengi and Mads sort of passing to each other in an attempt to probe someone out to press them. But when that's not happening, let's get that ball moving a little bit quicker, and let's try and entice them out with speed.
And it did a little bit more in the second half. The first half was snail's pace stuff. It did a little bit more, not to any great effect, obviously, because nothing happened. I mean,
have we mentioned that?
Emphasize this to you: nothing happened. But then when you try and go through those lines, you've got to be crisper with your passes, and your first touch has got to be good. So you can, you've effectively got to get through 3 lines in no space at all. It's very difficult. So everything's got to be really on point. And, you know, while there's been a lot of improvements so far under Jack, that's a big one that's going to have to, you know, be nailed down somewhere. And, you know, he talked a lot about it, so he recognises it. But we're going to see that a lot. I mean, that's a game plan for everybody. You know, we may experience a lot more joy in the short term on the road than we do at home, which is not that palatable for most, because that's where most people see the games. Limited capacity for the away fans to do that, but that may be it. But hopefully figures it out sooner rather than later. I mean, the evidence before us is that, you know, in the 5 games he had at that point, the steps and the changes were so rapid and impressive that you have to say you've got to give him time to do that. And so far you'd back him to, because of what he and his coaching staff have achieved. It's just one of those very, very frustrating afternoons where I think maybe actually I will give Rotherham some credit on this. Like you say, didn't make a mistake. And a lot of times goals do come from mistakes. Didn't make a single one. And you've got to give them credit. They had 9 games unbeaten, all competitions, before they came to this game. They were the most informed team in the division based on the 5 previous games, so higher than Stockport. So that really was the toughest game of the season. It was tough to watch.
It was tough to watch, yeah. I mean, it was like watching a game of rugby in the second half, wasn't it? That the team's defending their try line, and then the ball gets to the fly half, in this case the goalkeeper, and belts it for touch, doesn't he? Everything that goalkeeper touched in the last 20 minutes, apart from the floor when he was falling on it, everything he touched ended up in touch, and it was just like, you know, if England's number 10 was doing that at Twickenham, you'd be happy days. But obviously the opposition goalkeeper, not so. This is new territory for us, Jimbo. 69% of the ball yesterday, 69% of possession.
What did you see in the early stages? It was up sort of 80, 85, 88 at one point. And I was looking, and, you know, that they had not touched it.
And this is not Luton territory, probably since... Well, certainly since the last time we were in this division 6 years ago, but even then, we were doing a lot of running and not chasing the ball so much, but we weren't as dominant on the ball. So you're probably going back to the League 2 promotion season where we played some teams that we were heavily superior to. I'm not saying we were superior to Rotherham, but for the last time that we were really a team that were comfortable on the ball and had as much of it, that's a real big change, isn't it? As I've said earlier, even when we were playing these low blocks under Rob and under Bloomfield, possession generally was sort of 55-45 when we had most of it, and in their 45% they came out and tried to attack, whereas Rotherham didn't do that. And you could kind of tell that we were facing something we'd not faced for a long time in terms of that. And maybe we had, this will sound stupid, but maybe we had too much control of the game. Maybe if we wasn't in quite as much control of the game, we might have tempted them out if they saw a little bit of vulnerability somewhere where they could get at us. But because we were so in control, because all of a sudden we've got this defence where they're comfortable because they're not running here, there and everywhere, and we're having more of the ball. That's now 3 clean sheets on the trot. That's the first time that's happened since 2023. So we've been to the Premier League and back in that time. So maybe if we wasn't quite as in control as what we were, we'd have lured them out, or one person might have been lured out. It's just something that, now that we've experienced it, the next time they come up against it, which fortunately I don't think is going to be for a while, certainly not going to be at Barnsley on Saturday, they'll come and press us. I think Jack mentioned that in your post-match press conference, that he expects that. I wouldn't have thought Huddersfield and Bolton are going to come down here and sit that deep. They're going to have some sort of attacking intent because they're trying to get promotion themselves. So you're probably looking at Port Vale for the next time that's going to happen. So you've got 4 weeks to appreciate when it's going to happen and to change it. And it'll be interesting to see if it does change by then, because like you said, we're going to have to probably come up against this another 10, 12 times this season, and we can't keep having that, obviously. So something to work on, but I wasn't massively, I mean, obviously I was disappointed at the game of football I watched, but I wasn't, it's not like one of those that it was the end of the world or anything like that. It's just something new, and we encountered something new at Northampton, and we broke that down eventually. We encountered something new last week by playing 3 at the back against a front 3, and that was absolutely fine. When we went 3-0 up against Forest Green, we said the next time we go 3-0 up, we'll be better for it, and we were. And I think the next time we encounter this low block, we'll be better for it again.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you've got to remember we're 5 or 6 weeks away from not being able to pass 5 yards to each other, and that did for Bloomfield in the end. So the rapid change has been impressive, but there's still a long way to go. And yeah, we're going to have to wait and see how they approach this. But I think what we're seeing so far is that when they've come up against a problem or a roadblock like this, they've found a way through it. We'll have to see. I'm with you. Probably Port Vale, it might be that game, but we'll have to see. It will come up again, and we'll have to come through it. I take people's points that we've had this problem for years when people play low blocks, but that's the point of the low block. It's very difficult, isn't it? We've got to find solutions from this. So, yeah, I mean, I wasn't through. I mean, I was happy to go home, but nobody wants to see that sort of game, and I can't even assess it from a Rotherham point of view because they offered so little. I couldn't see if there were any threats. I know that the game plan that Luton had was not to let them get on the transition and get any profits from that. But we didn't see any of that. We didn't see any intent. We didn't see whether they could break. There was the only one occasion which they probably could have some legitimate gripes with, was the Mads Anderson incident where he's hauled someone down on the halfway line. And I was half expecting a red card to come because McWilliams was on his toes as well. And and Naismith was not going to catch him. So the referee's done Luton a favour by pulling that back. And then, Mads Anderson seeing a yellow was light relief as well. But other than that, we didn't see them trying to get down the side. We didn't see them try and counter. So I don't really know what they were trying to do, which leads you to believe that they came here to stifle, to make it horrible, to go home with a point, and they got what they wanted.
Yeah, I mean, you were never going to get more than a yellow card for the Mads Anderson incident because he didn't stop a goal-scoring opportunity. The referee stopped the goal-scoring opportunity, not Mads. The goal-scoring opportunity was still taking place. But the old Pied Piper put his whistle in his mouth and blew before he even noticed it, didn't he? And so, yeah, the yellow card was all they were going to get. Yeah, listen, is Naismith getting back to the geezer? Absolutely no chance. But, that far out, it's not even a goal-scoring opportunity anyway, is it? Because he could have a heavy touch. Anything could happen. It was a good yellow card to take in the end. And, yeah, the referee helped us by pulling it back. That's just pretty much how it is, isn't it? And also, Jimbo, when you make a statement like we made a statement at Stockport, it's not just Luton that are going to stand up and notice that statement. It's the whole division's going to notice that statement. So Rotherham are going to see that. that we've gone to the league leaders and played them off the park for 70 minutes or whatever. So the last thing they're going to do is come down here and play to our strengths and be played off the park by us. That is the thing about statements, isn't it? Yes, it's good that you make the statements yourself, but everyone takes notice of it. And, like I say, it's the first time that Jack's seen it. I wouldn't have thought, well, he's probably not going to come up against many low blocks in an under-18s game because, academy football is all about, getting it forward and scoring goals. That's why you see some crazy score lines. And obviously, 2 games at Norwich where they were both dead rubbers because they were going nowhere, probably can't sort of judge it on that. So this would be the first real legitimate time that he's come up against any kind of low block, because Mansfield didn't offer a low block, did they? They came and sort of played a game and things. So he's learning on the job, isn't he? And it'll be interesting to see where we go from there. I mean, there are 1 or 2 things that he could have done differently. I think he was sort of not helped really by not having Saville. I mean, obviously we wouldn't have had Saville even if the international break wasn't taking place because he'd have been suspended. But what Saville does, you only really appreciate someone when they're not there, don't you? And what Saville does is he just releases Lamine to go forward and create an extra player in and around the penalty box. Whereas yesterday he wasn't really sure whether to go forward or whether to hold back with Walsh and things like that. Whereas he's obviously, he sees the stature of Saville, knows that he's not going to lose the ball and things like that. And he's got the confidence to then go on. And had we have had Saville there and Fanny a little bit further up, it might have dragged someone else to him, which would have created a little bit of space. Obviously Yates wouldn't have been on the pitch, so Wells would have been the one to fill the space. And also the other one that we could actually have done with yesterday was Al Hamadi, because the other way in was crossing the ball for a big centre forward to head it home, and we didn't have that option available to us either, did we? And let's hope his injury isn't bad, that he picked up on international duty. I think the vibes are that it isn't bad, and that'll be handy. But funnily enough, the 2 players he could really have done with yesterday, and the reason why the game went ahead, even though those 2 players weren't there, were the 2 players that probably could have been as much use to us as anyone else.
Yeah, I mean, I agree on Saville. I think it's clear that he missed them because Lamine didn't have the same impact, wasn't as effective when he was dropping deep. Was a bit unsure, I felt, and Luton did actually try and fashion some chances that would have been ideal for the Al Hamadi scenario. Colin Bramwell thought had a very good first half and was getting some crosses in. No Hatter anywhere near them. And that's something I guess Yates probably should be doing as the 9 effectively, getting in those positions. But he's been in and out of the side, and he's not hit goal scoring form, has he? Yet this has happened with Yates at other clubs, Blackpool, for instance. So you never know. But I take it that I understand people going that he's not even getting in those chances or in those positions to score goals. But the creation was there, very, very minimal amount of it, but some decent crosses from Bramwell. I think Bramwell's been quite impressive actually since he's come back in, and I think he's number 1 straight on the team sheet for the position that he's playing. So there's something to work with there. But yeah, I mean, none of it worked. That thing you said earlier about having less control, well, yeah, maybe that's it. A bit more chaos. The team chaos, and see what comes of that, because yeah, we didn't see anything that Rotherham were going to offer in that transition on the counter or anything. So maybe it's like having the comfort to say, yeah, we can do that. We can go a bit, maybe even just do it for a period. Let's be maniacs for 5 minutes or 10 minutes, see what happens, because everything was in front of Rotherham and they were happy with that. And very clearly, whenever they got anywhere near a Luton player, they were kicking lumps at them. So they were a very, very physical side. So that was the game plan for them. And yeah, I mean, it worked.
Yeah, I don't think you are going to see it though, Jimbo, because I think he's recognised that the amount or the percentage of goals that we concede in these transition moments are so high that you just got to stop them. You stop them transition moments against you, you dry up an awful lot of goals that we concede, and then you're coming into the territory then of, in these particular games, 1 goal is enough to win that game, and he'll back his players to get that 1 goal more often than than not, as I would going forward now that we've seen it. Now that we've seen it, did Yates and Wells really work particularly well yesterday? I don't think they did necessarily in terms of breaking them down. Obviously, it worked in terms of how they were positioned and things like that from Jack's point of view. But maybe next time we're coming up against one of those, maybe he doesn't go with Wells and Yates. Maybe he goes with Wells and someone else playing off of him. I mean, obviously, the other one that we've missed yesterday, which is unfortunate, is Jordan Clark, because he's got that pass that you can thread through even the tightest of lines. And of course, he's injured and isn't back anytime soon. I think Jack said in his pre-match press conference that we're looking at sort of the time that the schedule gets really, really busy for the time that Jordan Clark comes back. So that to me tells me early December, when the fixtures really do start to kick up a little bit. So yeah, these are the things though, aren't they? Maybe next time he doesn't start with 3 central defenders when he's expecting to come up against this sort of side. Maybe he starts with 2 and just has one of the fullbacks dropping in to make up the 3 and things like that, and then having an extra body further up the pitch. But I can understand why he went with the team. We'd just beaten the league leaders 3-0. I suspect Rotherham don't play like that in every single away game, which is another thing that we've got to think about. When we do scouting of these teams, they're going to play differently against us than what they do against the Burtons and Port Vales of this world, and that's fine. That's the legacy of that statement that we put out against Stockport. So, he's got plenty to learn, but he's got plenty of options available to him, hasn't he? I mean, you look at the subs that he brought on yesterday. They're exciting subs. I mean, Jacob Brown's back now as well. That's another positive. Obviously, I've just mentioned we have 3 clean sheets. You have Jacob Brown back as well. He nearly opened the scoring, didn't he, with that back heel? Maybe on another day when he's had a few games, he'll control that and lash it home.
I don't know about nearly, but I know what you mean. He got in that position, yeah. And it's good to have him back. And actually, it's quite interesting in the pre-match that Jack was talking about Jacob and seeing him as a 9 as his best position. So that could solve a few issues. I mean, it's going to take a while for him to build up to fitness, but there's another option there.
Well, what it does do is it bumps 2 or 3 players further down the reckoning, doesn't it? Lassie Nordos for one. He was already 4th choice, really, wasn't he, behind Wells, Yates and Al Hamadi. Now you've got Brown in front of him. I think it's fair to say that Brown would right now be a better option than Nordos. Obviously, Nordos has got the cup games to make his impression should he get on the pitch in those, but he's got a lot of that's what I mean. He's got a lot of options. It doesn't have to be the same option next time. Maybe next time he will do something different. Maybe next time he'll start with Jake Richards in the centre to sort of pick probing passes and start with Gideon out wide or Millie out wide and try and stretch them with the pace.
Yeah.
And things like that. I mean, as I say, the long ball yesterday was pointless because once it hit the floor, it was just away and gone and going out for a goal kick. And the last thing we wanted was the ball to keep going out for a goal kick, because it took 20 minutes for the sort of thing to come back into play, didn't it, with the amount of time that were being taken over these goal kicks. 3 minutes of injury time in the second half is a reward for all that nonsense as well, isn't it? Not a punishment.
I was particularly quite happy with that because I was
I think
a little bit closer to going home.
I think the ref was bored, which is why he put 3 minutes up. But, it certainly doesn't sway you from doing it, does it? That's for sure. But yeah, just there are things to think about. Listen, we're not the perfect article. We played really, really well at Stockport. We didn't come away from Stockport saying we are going to get promoted. We put promotion back on the table as 2 different things, but we do think we're heading in the right direction. And nothing that I saw yesterday changes that. This is just another challenge that we've got to work out how to overcome down the line. We've worked out teams that attack us away from home, because if we'd gone to Stockport under Matt, they're 3-0 up before we start playing football.
Yeah,
they are. Now we can, to use Jack's phrase, suffer. And that's positive. Now we've just got to learn, and this is everyone, and we didn't necessarily recruit players for Jack's style either, because Jack's completely different to Rob, completely different to Matt. But these players that are used to running for the football have got to be used to having the football now, and their runs have now got to be to get the football in a better position to get the team up the pitch. And it's, they've got plenty of time to work on it. I'm absolutely fine with it. Did it make for a good watch yesterday? No. But if we've got to suffer one bad watch to sort that out, and then the next 3 or 4 times we play it are much better watches and we win those games, then you take one on the chin for the team, don't you?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's still progress in the sense that we've got 7 points out of 9, when you wouldn't necessarily have seen where our next point was coming from 6 weeks ago. And yeah, it's everybody's going to be frustrated by that one because we didn't offer anything. We didn't offer enough. And maybe there was, reasons for that you can look at. Jake Richards didn't do anything wrong, but I think he said he'd picked up a knock in training, whether he was potentially thinking about going with Gideon Kader. Maybe that's a thing where, yeah, he's been really good, Richards, but if your dad's picked up a knock, and maybe it's just like saying, right, have this one out, rest this one. Kader comes in because he was reasonably lively when he came on, Gideon. So there's those sorts of elements, and there were things that I did really like. Bramall playing really high, almost with the forwards, when they had the ball. So you could see where that could work if they could get round the sides, but they were squeezed so much they weren't working it out to Bramall in the first half, and then Kader when he came on had loads of space and they weren't ever getting the ball out to him. So there's elements there that you could probably work on. We know wide positions are a strength. Clark not being in the game on the squad for that game, it particularly doesn't help because he is one of those players that can play between the lines, and particularly when he's been on form and he's been good of late, he can do that. So, yeah, I don't think it's in any way as desperate as some people might make out. It's just, it's not great football, is it?
It's just another poor home performance in a season of poor home performances, isn't it? But I really don't think that we're going to keep on playing badly at home. I really think he will turn these home performances around. He just hasn't seen, or hasn't come up against it before. You're right. It was the worst opponent at the wrong time for us, wasn't it? If we'd had that opponent, if they'd come down here when Mansfield were here, when we had Clark, when we had Saville, and when we had the sort of better striking options, then we probably would have broke them down. So we had no problem against Mansfield in creating chances and things. It's just timing, isn't it? And it wasn't our time. But I mean, we're a third of the way into the season. Obviously, we've surrendered one manager and we're building under a second manager. I don't think anyone could possibly say we've not improved in the time that Jack's been here to the point that we're playing our best football now. I know yesterday wasn't brilliant, but the overall picture is a lot cheerier now than at any stage in the time that we had under Matt this season. The football was dire under Matt. The messaging was mixed. No one could really understand it. At least now you get an idea of what the plan is. Jack's quite open in that he gives you, what we're trying to do, explained what we tried to do, even though we failed to do it yesterday. He still explained it. It was none of this. We had all these brilliant box entries and all this nonsense that we were getting fed before. So I think there's reason to be optimistic still. Yes, there are still challenges to overcome, and that's fine. But like you said earlier in the podcast, when he's faced a challenge, a different kind of challenge, he sorted it out. And he is that inexperienced as a coach that we as fans are just going to have to accept that the first time he sees something, he might not nail it straight away, but he's an intelligent enough person, both from a football point of view and all of the experiences that he's had, that once he's seen it, he'll cover it.
Yeah, I think so. When you have a game like that where there's not really anything to draw on from a tactical point of view, I would look to the messaging and what he's been saying, and the messaging has been good and strong about, particularly his players saying he's looking for intention and what they're trying to do. You can't say that the intention over his short reign of 5 weeks has not been there. We've seen the improvements. And maybe take this game in isolation, that it's one they're really going to have to nail down to try and figure out how to crack that nut in particular. But I like what he's saying. I like how he's describing the game and the tactical bits, which you can hear. It's well worth listening to the press conferences if you haven't, because they're not the same old sorts of things. And I kind of like this point of a new manager anyway, because you get to hear all the new ideas. But it's all relatively positive and confident is the main thing. And he's got this sort of swagger about him that if you read the piece I did before the game on Saturday, where he's talking about how he kind of thought playing was a bit easy because he knew it was a bit easy. He knew he was good. And it's that kind of arrogance, but confidence as well. And he kind of brings that to the team. And you can see that over the period that he's been a manager, that this squad, and I repeat, that could not pass to each other. 5-yard passes couldn't do it at Stevenage and many times before the season, are now playing a lot better, to the point that we go to Stockport with the league leaders and give them an absolute thwacking. So on that, from all those little wins are all sort of stacking up. It's just not going to be perfect at the moment, and that's okay. I mean, even the last time we were in this division, we weren't riding high at this point. We just went on a very good run. I don't imagine we're going to go 27 games unbeaten, but hey, I'll take 5 for starters.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And that Stevenage game was 5 weeks ago yesterday.
Yeah.
To come from where we were, which was about as bad a Luton performance as I've seen. In fact, you could par it with Lincoln, really, and that was 2 weeks prior to that. 2 of the worst Luton performances I've seen were within the last 7 weeks, and now we're here. Okay, we couldn't break down a human brick wall, which is basically what it was by the end, wasn't it? I don't think anyone even reached the centre circle from Rotherham, let alone go past the halfway line. But, that's fine. They come for a 0-0 draw. They got their 0-0 draw. And then good luck to them. But yeah, in terms of where we want to be, of course, everyone would love us to be in the top 2 and going for promotion and doing it the Birmingham way and things like that. Forget the financial power and everything else like that. But as you just said a minute ago, you can get promoted by steadily knocking each team down the ladder one. We went up 1 place yesterday. If we keep on going up 1 place every Saturday, it's not going to be long before we're where we want to be. Okay, we missed a chance to move 3 points behind Stockport, and that was a little bit unfortunate, but they're going to come a cropper, especially now that it's confirmed that Norwood's out for 2 months. So they're going to slow up a little bit. And let's just hope that we keep on improving, which the evidence of each game so far, minus yesterday, would suggest that we are. And if that is the case, then we're going to get into a position where we're perfectly happy with what we end up with. We're still right on the fringes of it. Got a massive week to come. And we were going to find out exactly where we are over this next week. Barnsley away, Huddersfield at home, Bolton at home. You pick up a legitimate number of points from that week. You could not only, particularly if you beat Huddersfield and Bolton, not only are you knocking off a couple of promotion challenges, but you're also seeing what you're up against. I mean, right now, I would say Bolton are probably the team likeliest to win the league. They look really good whenever I've seen them. And that might be good because they might come down here with a bit of confidence and that swagger and that intent to attack us, leave space in behind, and we pick them off like we did Stockport last week. So, yeah, I'm pretty happy. I'm certainly a lot happier. Well, not a lot happier. There isn't even a word to describe how much happier I am from 5 weeks ago. But yeah, there's just something about Jack that when we hit a bump in the road, it doesn't feel quite as bumpy.
I take it that, the bit I said that he's been telling his players, you can only really know something once you've experienced it. Well, he's experienced a lot, and he's experienced elite football. So he's got this sense of, and albeit the Arsenal team that he played in weren't the all-conquering Arsenal teams of many years before and possibly this year, but they still won most of their games, didn't they? So, he would have the experience of, a setback, but then knowing how to override that. And so he's got that experience. He can pass that on. People have respect for his standing in the game and what he did in the game and his talent, because he was a bloody talented player. You can well see why he said playing was easy, because it made it look like it was. So, the difficulty, I guess, for anybody, not just Jack, is to try and take what you've experienced and give it to other people. But he seems to have done that, and the evidence is there for us to see. And really, everyone above us in the league so far at the moment is within touching distance, and that's fine. And if you extrapolate the games he's had so far, I'm going to leave out the Mansfield one. But if you win 4 and draw 1, you're going to be further up the table than we are now for the rest of the season if you can continue to do that. So, we'd all like to see wins. We'd like to see some at home. We'd like to see some bloody goals at home for sure. I mean, we haven't seen one of those for a very long time. But on the whole, generally, I think that we should still be, moving in a more optimistic direction.
Yeah, I agree. And then, of course, there's January to come as well, isn't there? So if he does need things to reinforce us to sort these challenges of breaking low blocks down and things like that, then he's got that option. I mean, the thing for me is, I've never had a problem with the goalkeeper all season. Anytime that I hear from people that they've got an issue with the goalkeeper, I just think back to his predecessor, who I had a massive issue with. I haven't got an issue with Kearley.
He's got 8 clean sheets. He's the most in the league. So
8 in 15.
And 3 on the bounce in the league. So,
Yep.
Come on, that's not a problem. And anyone that's moaning at the defence from yesterday's game, that was not a problem. They kept another clean sheet, didn't put a foot wrong. Well, apart from the Mads Anderson one, but he got let out of jail by the referee. Other than that, absolutely fine. What we didn't do was force anything in the other third of the pitch. So that's where the work is.
I think with Kearley, people remember mistakes of goalkeepers more than they remember the good times of goalkeepers, don't they? And of course, he had a bit of a howler with the Blackpool opener, and that was the game that was on television as well, so everyone witnessed it. But people very quickly forget the world-class saves he made against Wigan, which preserved a clean sheet that day, and a couple of the sort of saves that followed it and things like that. And
well, I give you from the Rotherham game, he collected the ball in a congested Luton penalty box, and he was trying to weave his way through players to try and get an attack started. So he recognised that urgency, and he did throw it out in a rather unconventional way, and
got mullered.
Somebody stood on his toe and stuff. I can't, maybe I'm doing him a disservice, Kaminsky. I can't remember a time that I saw that from him. So that in itself says, we're in a better place there. Earlier in the season as well, when he was, out of his penalty area, sweeping up balls that got through. Happy with all of that. I don't think that's an issue.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I don't either. I thought it was a big issue last season, the goalkeeper, and I don't have that problem this time around. There were a couple of crosses against Stockport late on that he came and dealt with, even though he knew he was going to get poleaxed. And no, I've no problem. He's one of the best goalkeepers in the division, and that's fine. Defensively, we just look so much better. We do. Forget yesterday, even when teams attack us, we look so much better. We're throwing ourselves in front of the ball. We are making last-ditch tackles. We're tracking runners. No one's gone clean through on our goal in quite a while, whereas that was happening a lot. No one's getting down the sides of us with ease these days, whereas that was happening quite a lot. The only goals we've conceded in the league under Jack, Naki Wells played a beautiful through ball and a penalty. We're not conceding easy goals under Jack, and that goes back to that control that I mentioned, that he seems to have blocked out the way that most of attacks against us start, and now teams are having to work out other ways, whereas under the 2 previous managers, it didn't matter what attacking we was doing. That goal that we was conceding relentlessly, right guy crossing it to the back post to a unmarked guy, was happening time after time after time. The guy's not even attacking down the side now to cross it to the guy who's not even unmarked now. So that's definitely a positive.
And I think you probably could credit Chris Powell with a bit of that as well. He's a fantastically solid defender in his day, and very well experienced managerially as well. So, defensively, that goes kind of unnoticed, doesn't it? Really, that how little we've given up when we were coughing up chances galore before, and that has had to happen. It always has to happen when a new manager comes in because the previous one has not gone well. Then you're almost always going to have to shore it up at the back. They've done that. Now, the problem is going forward, we all recognise that. We all recognise that that's been a problem for quite many seasons. And how do you solve that? But yeah, he's got a transfer window coming up. He's got players coming back. Certainly, that long list of injuries that we had that almost could fill a whole 11 is easing quite rapidly. We heard 3 or 4 players that are going to be or have been now back on the grass and training. How long they take, we don't know, but that's a good positive step. So, yeah, I mean, there's lots more to be looking at this and saying that, well, at least there are options to change it. And I don't think there were options before.
No,
I
there
couldn't
weren't.
see them anyway.
No, there weren't. The midfield looks so much better under Jack than it did under Matt. There's an organisation to it, right? There's a 6 and 2 8s, that's obvious, but sometimes Lamine comes and plays alongside George Saville, depending on the opposition. But his role, and you've been told it, so he's definitely been told it. His role is to be the Frank Lampard and go from deep into the penalty box. So if he's offering up that sort of messaging, then Lamine's obviously going to take that on board. We're so much more comfortable on the ball under Wilshere. I think I saw something along the lines of 88% pass completion yesterday. Okay, a lot of them were Mads and Mengi having their own game between themselves, but
I counted at one point 10 passes.
You were bored,
just
weren't
between them two, because I could hear people around me getting annoyed by it. The theory behind it is right. You play these little short passes, draw the opposition team out to you. There's a little bit more space. Rotherham weren't having it.
They were not engaging, were they?
Having it at all. But 10 passes just between those, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth.
Yeah, I genuinely have respect for Rotherham for how they engaged in absolutely zero yesterday. I've not seen it before in my life. Someone usually somewhere gets bored and goes on a little one-man solo mission. None of it yesterday. It was like it was like they were in quicksand and they were slowly being buried. They were not moving for love nor money yesterday, and they got their reward for it. The only area then, Jimbo, that we are a work in progress under Jack. I'm sure all of it's still a progress, but a particular work in progress is the forward line, and I mean, it will come. There's no doubt it'll come. If you look at the quality of chances, not yesterday again, but the quality, they use XG for the quality of chances, don't they? It has massively risen under Jack to where it was under Matt Bloomfield. I don't know if that's because we've got actual attackers coaching the attackers rather than that goalkeeper nonsense that we had in the past. But whatever it is, they're getting into better positions to have better shooting opportunities. I mean, even Wells last week went clean through on goal and keeper made a brilliant save. So I'm sure in time that will happen. And I know that the 2 cup games were against inferior opposition, but we got our strikers in the middle of the goal, right in front of the goal. Wells had a tap in, Yates had a tap in. I wouldn't say Kadir's was a tap in, but once he's been put through, you'd fancy him to score more than he'd miss. So we're getting into those positions. We've almost got a scrub yesterday out of the sort of anything that we judge it on, because one team just didn't want to play the game, did they, really?
Yes, please. If I can scrub it from my memory, that would be fantastic.
I'm sure it won't live in your memory for too long. I hope it doesn't, because it doesn't deserve to be in there for long.
There's nothing there to signpost it in my memory whatsoever. I suppose on the forward line issue, it's similar to what you were talking about, the goalkeeper. One mistake gets remembered more than any of the other good things. Now, if your strikers don't score, then people will criticise them for not scoring. But I would feel uncomfortable in Wales, particular, in the previous podcast, saying he made some really great runs, didn't quite get the rewards for them. So then going, he's not good enough. I wouldn't say that. There was just no space for them to do anything in there. And you talked about how probably you could have gone out wide and crossed in more, but then
that's not playing to Wales either, is it?
Exactly. So there is some stuff to solve there. But like I say, when you've got the option to solve them, it feels, I'm more relaxed about it, because Yeah, I didn't see the options before. I couldn't told you what they were. I think you even said, I don't know what we're trying to do. And now we know what we're trying to do. It's just that, like you say, Rotherham turned up and just weren't having it.
That was so anti anything we wanted them to do. It was untrue, wasn't it? Come on, just once, just leave a little bit of space. Chances are we'd have missed anyway, but it would have been nice to have found out, wouldn't it? It'd have been lovely. I think the time to judge Jack on these low blocks is the next time, though. You know, if we're still struggling to break it down, and listen, it isn't an easy thing. What did it take England today? 74 minutes or something to break down Albania, who actually did have plenty of chances on transition in the first half, in particular of that game. I only caught the first bit of the second half. I was travelling to the studio. But if you think back in England's World Cup qualifying campaign, I think they scored 3 goals in 180 minutes against Andorra. It's not necessarily the easiest thing to do to break down this low block, particularly when you've not seen quite such a low block as that. I mean, it wasn't so much a low block, was it? It was just an all-out retreat, and
it was a park the bus special. That's what it was.
Didn't park the bus. They parked the whole bloody fleet of the things, didn't they? It was just.
Yeah.
I respect it. I hate it. I cannot stand that, and I'm glad that we don't go away from home and do it. But I've got a begrudging respect for the fact that in 90 minutes, no one got bored on that pitch for them. And, you know, okay, I know that ball wasn't in play for anywhere near as long as it could have been. And, of course, that's part of their plan. But I really don't think it was frustrating. But I really don't think it was doom and gloom or anything like that. And I'd be more worried if I couldn't see where we were going and the direction that we were going in. And sometimes we've just got to be patient that we are going to hit these curveballs every now and again. And we just need a little bit of patience for them to work it out. Yes, we'd like to see them move the ball a bit quicker. We'd like to see them get the ball forward a bit quicker. But, you know, like you said, if we put the ball forward quickly, we had 3 beef cakes against 2 fairly small strikers. So that was never going to work, was it? So, yeah. We'll leave it be and hope that Jack can solve the puzzle next time that he's up against it. I don't think we've got that for a few weeks. I hope not anyway.
No, I hope not as well. I'm pretty amazed we've got to the time we have talking about this game. I thought we could be 5 minutes and done on that. But yeah, well done to you. And me.
Yeah, absolutely. And you, if you're still listening or watching. Yeah. I think people are only waiting to see if there are any correct scores, Jimbo, and I'm pleased to say that there was one.
Was it me?
No, it was not you.
Bloody well,
You
wasn't
didn't
me.
get either.
God.
You didn't get either of them right. At least I got the nil bit right from them. I mean, they could still be playing next Saturday and would be nil, wouldn't they? But yeah, no, Richard Lovelock, the only person who went 0-0, and fair play to you. You'll get 3 points. And we'll see where that puts you on our leaderboard. In the preview to the Barnsley episode, we'll put the leaderboard up for that one. Yeah, no, let's just hope that's a game of football that we don't have to see again.
Yes, please. I mean, I've forgotten about it already. Have you?
Oh, yeah, I'd forgotten about it by the time I'd done that instant reaction. That's why I got Dan in.
Yeah, it's a good shout, that one, yeah.
Yeah.
So you had to do less talking.
Yeah, I fell asleep. Dan, come and help me. Yeah, so thanks to everyone who came up to Jimbo and myself before the game started yesterday. Actually, it was a shame we went in, wasn't it? We could have just stood there and spoken to you all for an extra couple of hours and we wouldn't have missed anything.
It would be delightful. I got offered a beer. I couldn't take it because I went to go and set up for the dullest game of football ever. And yeah, we could have stayed out there for a little while longer. Perhaps we'll do it again, shall we?
Yeah, absolutely. We will. We'll pick a home game and we'll make sure that we're there early enough. And if you guys want to come and chat to us, we'll let you know where we're going to be. Thanks, as always, to the folks at Marsh House, the proud new home of the Luton Town Supporters Trust podcast. We really appreciate your support, guys, particularly in these coming weeks where we're going to be in here quite a lot with this relentless run of games that's about to begin. And, of course, to Sean Grant and the Wolfgang for all of our intro music. From Jimbo and myself, until next time, which will be a preview of what we hope will be a so much better game of football to watch against Barnsley. From the two of us, come on, you Hatters. Bit more entertainment next time, please.